of the United States, Donald Trump, being inaugurated just a few minutes ago, if anything. But we also talked about the U.S. Special Envoy in the country, Irene Khan, who is here in Zambia for a 10-day assessment of freedom of expression. And we'll be diving deep into these ongoings and what's happening in the country in relation to freedom of expression and Zambian politics, as well as the challenges and prospects for the opposition. The Secretary General of the Tonse Alliance, Raphael Nakachinda, is joining us this evening on the show live. And you can actually participate by calling in and having an interaction with us in studio. But for now, thank you so much, Mr. Nakachinda, for joining us on Diamond Live.
Thank you very much. Compliments of the season. This is the first time I'm featuring on this platform this year. And it's an interesting year. We're looking forward to a more engaging and productive year. We hope we can be able to represent the Zambian people effectively, objectively, and be able to deliver the aspirations for the year and the year to come.
It's the first time that we're having this interaction, and I'm tempted to ask what 2025 looks like for the Patriotic Front and Tonse Alliance, especially given the fact that it still does look like it is in total disarray.
Well, I think the aspect of being in total disarray is a perception because of the determination of the UPND to try and obviously destroy, Patriotic Front, and clearly they have shown agitation and a desire to see if they can tamper with, the Tonse Alliance, because the agenda of the UPND clearly has been to have no opposition as we face 2026 elections. They've done things in a mud-fasted, manner, arrests and abuse of human rights, stopping us from expressing ourselves, stopping, political players from assembling, whether it's a rally, indoor meetings and all that. You've heard what Musamba, the IG, has been pronouncing, things that are never expected to be said in a democratic country. So for us, I think our focus is not necessarily the technicalities that the UPN are playing with. Our focus is the people. And when it comes to the people, the membership of Patriotic Front remains intact, resolute towards making sure that how we end up in 2026 should be in a manner that their resolve to provide an alternative government is achieved. And the fact that the UPND have been able to aid us through their failure to provide and fulfill, the kind of leadership, the promises in terms of some of the things they said they were going to achieve, and they have, I think, failed on almost everything they promised. And for us in the opposition, that is a plus, because it's easier to interact with the Zambian people based on the fact that we have a track record of achievement and they have a track record of failure.
I find it very interesting that you say that the issue around the Patriotic Front being in disarray is just a perception. But even in the few minutes here that we have this opportunity, you couldn't talk about the Patriotic Front. You spent majority of it talking about the UPND. Doesn't this point towards disarray in your Patriotic Front?
What do you want me to discuss about Patriotic Front? Because the real issue before us is the UPND that are in government, and they're the ones that are presiding over the welfare of the Zambian people. When I talk about, PF and the attempts by UPND, it's in public domain. It's not a subject that we need to beat and spend much energy on it.
However, the UPND have denied this several times, that they are not responsible for the confusion within the party, and this was caused by yourselves, because now we are seeing three different individuals claiming to be president of the Patriotic Front, but they insist that this confusion was caused by yourselves. You had members who disagreed with each other, and here we are today, and they're not responsible for that.
For us, our attitude is that we consider Zambian people to be intelligent enough, you people in the fourth estate to be intelligent enough to analyze and be able to come to a conclusion whether what the UPND are saying is something you can buy or is just basically propaganda. I can ask a question. The 24th of October 2023, do you think in your own good conscience you can consider what happened with Mao Samba on the day we're celebrating our independence is anything you can validate as a conference or convention to which a leader would be elected?
But he has distanced himself from the UPND. He has been making scathing attacks against the UPND. Just a few days ago, he made a commitment that he is there to make sure that the Patriotic Front does not endorse Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND in the forthcoming election. What kind of relationship is that?
You see how clever you dodge what I'm presenting on the table? I'm saying, in your own judgment and good conscience, can you, justify and legitimately say that what the activity Mao Sampa held at Mulungushi amounts to a conference?
I think that's a PF question because it's your party.
But that's how come I'm saying, whilst it is a PF question, we live in the same environment. You have a role to play as a fourth estate to make sure that this country remains, on the rail towards growing our democracy. Anything that is inimical to the growth of our democracy, inimical towards strengthening institutions of government, and in this case, political parties, are not just clubs, because in 2016, the Zambian people, through the constitution that was, repealed, did introduce political parties as constitutional entities through, the provision of the Constitution, Article 60, that provides that the political parties are recognized as such, as, constitutional entities. It's not an issue of us being, said, what's your view? We will also have the Zambian people, through you, to be able to determine whether what transpired on the 24th of October is anything you can call legitimate. Regardless of what Mao Samba will say then, what he's saying now, and all those things, we all have a duty to make sure this country is on the right path towards making sure that the governance system is one that will be able to guarantee that those who aspire for leadership are checked and are able to provide, that which the Zambian people aspire to receive from those who are in government.
Before we delve into the issue of freedoms of expression and so on, back to the earlier question, because it's the beginning of 2025. This is the year before the election year. So what is the way forward? Because we've heard former President Edgar Lungu talk about Plan B, and we have upcoming by-elections. The by-elections in Pambashe, for example, that was a member of yours who's lost a seat. So what's the way forward, especially for the Patriotic Front, considering the current circumstances?
Well, Plan B, as it has already been pronounced, is in motion. And we know that it has unsettled our friends who are in government, and a lot of people are seemingly having difficulties to, absorb and deal with the mystery around it. But for us, as Tonse Alliance, as Patriotic Front, the mystery is good, because every time we have tried to be transparent about where we're going, we have only armed the UPND to sabotage our efforts. It has been demonstrated through how PF has been treated, through how our efforts to bring the opposition together has also been interfered with. So moving forward, Plan B remains Plan B in motion.
When do you intend to unveil this Plan B? Is it equally a day before a nomination or an election?
No, don't worry about that. That's how come it's called Plan B. Both the timing, what it is, and the mystery around it, it's a sum total of all these components that are bothering everybody, including yourself. So I can only tell you that Plan B is in motion. Very potent, and it will deliver to the aspiration of the Zambian people.
Let's talk about the freedom of expression in the country. You, among people that have spoken and have said that Zambia is not free at the moment. The space is shrinking and people are not able to express themselves. This that you have advanced has been disputed by the government because they say that they have worked towards improving the status of the country in terms of enhancing people's freedoms. Why do you insist that the UPND freedom of expression is not a representation of what freedom of expression must be?
First of all, I'm seated here as one of those who have suffered at the hand of the UPND through the abuse and interference with institutions of government like the police, the judiciary, and the other sacred institutions of government. If you give me time, today I had an interesting experience at court because I was to appear in court for plea for another case or new case of seditious practice. Because at some point last year, I did challenge government because we got to learn that government had imported maize and had also allowed millers to supply meal that had, toxins which were a danger to, human beings. And I think that also been demonstrated by the number of dogs that had died. And the revelation had come not only to us, but also through Diamond TV. And I think I must commend you that you are able to expose that, which, was going to, cause a number of people who were unsuspecting, end up in, losing their lives. So I made a pronouncement condemning and demanding that the Minister of Health should come clean. And that if they don't, what they are doing is basically a genocide against their own citizens. And I still stand by that position today. Today, the Minister of Health, that time, confirmed that, yes, we have this challenge. And therefore, we have, they even listed millers, they said had meal that contained that, chemical challenging, which would affect the health of the people. But I'm facing a charge. It's not the only one. I have, I think, 4 charges of seditious practice, or what do they call it? Seditious practice in court. I have a case where, based on the nomenclatures I used, I was actually even transported, just to remind you, to Solwezi because some youth chairman of UPN in Solwezi says, bring him here, we'll sort him out the way we did with Congo. Now, this is just me. But today as we speak, Mumbipiri is in Kawambwa, facing a charge of aggravated robbery. Why? Because when we were campaigning in the by-election of Kawambwa, a minister in the name of Mike Imposha found himself in a ward they were not designated as UPND to do any political activity or campaign in a classroom. And there was suspicion that they are actually getting voters' cards and NRCs. As a responsible citizen, she went to confront a minister with some of the members of Patriotic Front and Tonse Alliance to say, what are you doing? Why are you in this area? There were even journalists. Cameras were taken, there are even videos to that effect. Having confronted that person, all of a sudden, and of course the police are also shocked because now we're in an environment where, these people are, under duress, asked to do certain things that they don't believe they should do. She is arrested, charged with aggravated robbery. She is put in at the police on the corridor without any facility, toilet, or anything of that nature. What would you describe that to be? Is it not an abuse of human rights? Then beyond that, we are aware that she was arrested on the 9th of January. 2 days later, the police sent the file and the records to NPA. When the NPA looked at the evidence, they were of the opinion that there's no evidence to even show that this person committed this offense. So they wrote to the command in Wapula that we cannot prosecute this case. Last week on Wednesday, that communication reached Wapula. Up to today, Mumbipiri is still in custody, subjected to all manner of inhuman treatment as a lady, as a woman, sleeping on some corridor at the police.
Well, we can't independently verify that. But what you describe sounds like the National Prosecution Authority, from what you say, is upholding someone's rights.
No. Listen, when we are talking about these things, Mr. Jonah, you must analyze them from the sum total of how institutions are operating. Okay? That is a decision, obviously, that the NPA has made. Under normal circumstances, authority or instructions to prosecute is a preserve of the NPA. When the police have done their investigations, they have arrested somebody, and they forward the file to NPA, what is expected is that NPA will give consent, whether you can prosecute or not. If they deny to give consent, the police have no other choice but to release that person because that person is deemed to be innocent.
No.
How is it that?
No. That's not true, though. The National Prosecution Authority does also have a liaison with the law enforcement agencies to find one of two possibilities. One is that possibility. The other is that there's an error, but that doesn't mean that the person did not commit a crime. There may be an error with what they've been charged with. And this is actually very common practice.
But listen, if there's an error, what happens is that the National Prosecution Office, for example, has the power to have the matter go before court. They enter a nolle and ask the police to reinvestigate. That's a procedure. But if, for example, I've been arrested and the file is taken to NPA, they will indicate, and in this case I'm telling you on Telefema, that they have said that there's no evidence.
You have expressed you've expressed how you've got reservations with how institutions of government operate in this country. But this sounds like something we've heard before. We've heard these complaints when the Patriotic Front was in government. We've heard these complaints even before under the MMD. And these are two political parties you've been a part of. And today, the minister, when he was speaking with the special rapporteur, he did mention that if we look at how the rights are being upheld here, there's historical context, and those are words he used, and he said there's a benchmark also. And this takes us back to where we are coming from as a country. We've heard sessions that the democratic space in this country is shrinking, and many have questioned such statements, saying, what's the benchmark to that? Because many or others are arguing that the situation was worse before this UPND government came into office. What's your comment on that, especially that you've been a part of the last two, governing political parties?
Okay, what happened to MMD when the issues that you're raising, came to the fore? MMD was voted out. What happened to Patriotic Front when the issues you're talking about came to the fore? PF was voted out. Why should we then have an argument today that when those things happen under UPND, they should be justified on the basis that they used to happen under PF or MMD?
The argument is that they're doing better than the PF and MMD.
And just to add on to what Chumweka said, the argument from the opposition and supporters of the opposition is that you've been using the expression, it's shrinking. But shrinking means that it's gotten worse. Even if it is bad, but is better than before, cannot be described as shrinking.
I want to be very fair with you because I want to consider that you are old enough under MMD and you are old enough and mature under Patriotic Front. Tell me, under MMD, when did Patriotic Front ever was denied to have rallies, for example? Mr. Sata would lose elections in 2001, 2006, today, and you apply for a rally 2 days later, and you'll be granted. So, if that was what was happening under MMD, if that's what was happening under Patriotic Front where the opposition were having rallies, you answer the question. When did the opposition in Zambia...
But under the Patriotic Front...
Don't interject, yeah.
Under the Patriotic Front,
what I'm saying is
we've seen people not having that ability to gather and so on. And we have these on record, yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because I was in opposition at the time. I was in MMD, like you rightly put it. We used to have...
You were in government. You were in government.
No,
you were a minister under the Patriotic Front.
I became minister a little later because you go by your own question. Basically, you are putting a fact out there that I belonged to MMD at some point before I joined Patriotic Front, and I was privileged to be in government. So I'm trying to give an analysis from your own presentation of MMD, PF, and now your PND. Okay? So the MMD, first of all, debunks your analysis. Patriotic Front also debunks your analysis. I am seated here. I want you to answer. When did a member, the opposition...
When you talk about freedoms of expression, Mr. Nakachinda, that goes in different forms. It also includes people appearing on public platforms such as radio. We've seen people getting attacked by people who show up in either party regalia or purporting to be members of the Patriotic Front and disturbing live programs. But, and we have several examples of that, and that's an affront to the media. We've seen media houses also getting closed. That can also be attributed to freedoms of expression being violated.
Chimweka, your efforts to try and become PR officers for the UPN.
We're asking you questions, Mr. Nakachinda. All you have to do is just respond to the question.
On this very platform, I came here as an invited guest. It wasn't just a cadre. A government official barged into this studio to come and tell me how that, he, without being invited, it's unethical, it is not right. These were intimidated into allowing Tawa Kawana here.
How do you explain an opposition leader also escaping a radio station through the roof, being blocked from flying at the airport? Honestly, Mr. Nakachinda, how do you explain those incidents?
And use an example of a government official, but the people who could not be identified by those who are live on those programs.
Listen,
outside the radio, trying to enter a radio station.
I went to a fundraiser for the Komboka ceremony in Mongo, and in that fundraiser there's a place called the VVIP, pavilion, where the speaker, the Ngambela representing the Ritunga, and members of parliament, ministers, everybody were in that place. And I was privileged to have, also indicated on behalf of Patriotic Front that we want to participate. I was beaten.
You're failing to justify all of this, and all you're doing is talking about what the UPND has done. But you're not justifying what you were doing when you were in government.
You want me to justify something for which the Zambian people presented a red flag? You wanted me to discuss that?
Oh, only because you are presenting yourself. No,
Mr. Jonah.
No. Let me finish. Let me finish. Only because you are presenting yourself as the moral alternative for the Zambian people.
Because we have had the opportunity of being voted out, we took a moment of introspection. We have changed in terms of policies and so on, and we've done it openly. You know that we put a committee in place after the loss to go and consult the Zambian people. What is it that you are dissatisfied, even with our track record of development? They told us cadres, they told us all these issues, and we came to the Zambian people openly through President Edgar Lungu to say we are sorry. You seem to be beating the same drum. In beating that drum, you are trying to do it in such a way that you justify the wrongs of UPND.
No. You are here.
So why are you taking me to?
Let us talk about you then, and you will answer my questions. You are saying you've gone back to the Zambian people and you've apologized, but I think there's more to that, because an apology cannot be enough for the loss of lives. And if you would like, I could count the number of lives of citizens that died for expressing themselves, because assembling at a political event is expressing yourself. We've had 3 citizens dying here in Lusaka, 2 on the same day at the court grounds, live bullets at the hands of the Zambia Police Service. We had one along Kafua Road dying, a young woman. Another one in Western Province, Lawrence Banda, dying at the hands of law enforcement agencies. And this is what we're going to say. You went and consulted and you came back and said sorry to the people of this country, and it's kumbaya?
So the good thing is that you are able to give context to it at the hand of law enforcement agencies.
But you were just from talking about the Zambia Police Service.
Listen. The situation for us, it's not only the law enforcement agencies. We had Kungo killed by UPND cadres in broad daylight.
With 2 people jailed and sent to jail.
Listen, it's not even when you say 2 people jailed, I can even, unless you want to make it a subject, if we were to discuss Congo and the surrounding situation, I can tell you that the witnesses and the people who were involved, all that, the UPND interfered with them. There was an MP, I may not mention today, who even brought some of the witnesses in Lusaka, kept at Parliament Motel to interfere with the fact that if the matter goes to court, they didn't want those people to be indicted for murder and so on. Those who they have sacrificed have just gone in for lesser charges other than murder. It's a subject for another day. But if you're discussing about human rights, look, we had 2 youths in Karurushi on TikTok singing and expressing themselves on the high cost of living. They were arrested, brought into Lusaka, even when the law provides that if you are alleged to have committed an offense and it's a matter that is to be tried in a subordinate court, subordinate courts have limited jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction has to do with the district. If you have committed an offense in Osaka, you're expected to be arrested, indicted, and prosecuted in Osaka. You can't be transported to another district.
Those people live, Mr. Nakachinda. I'm talking about people who have lost their lives. They're not watching this program, and those are the people that.
So,
people
as far
like
as you are concerned, Mr.
for.
Jonah, abuse of human rights is people have died.
No, it is not. But extrajudicial killings have got to be the extreme of an abuse of human rights.
Let me give you an example of an extreme. For the first time in the history of this country, we had a member of parliament abducted, and he named officials at the State House. Mr. Levin Goma, he named Mr. Hamasaka, he named Mr. Trevor Mwindo, the youth chairman, deputy national youth chairman of UPND.
Who have all denied, by the way.
Listen, he named them. But before he could exhaust his story, what happened? When he was discovered and he was taken to Midland Hospital, the state, led by Home Affairs Minister, went and actually abducted him from that hospital, took him to Minasoka and restricted relatives and everybody from accessing the gentleman. We saw,
Mr. Nakachinda, I feel like you are evading accountability here. He lives.
Okay, as far as you are concerned,
and you don't want to, because we're talking about a shift, isn't it?
Mr. Jonah, as far as you are concerned, the 3 people were killed at the hand of the law enforcement agencies. That was the only abuse of human rights.
No.
So our arrest, our being taken to jail for providing checks and balances and so on, that's not an abuse of human rights.
No, because
as far as I need to die for you to qualify that it's an abuse of human rights. Is that what you're trying to suggest?
That's not what I'm trying to suggest. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you, because you say that things have gotten worse in this administration.
They have gotten worse.
Mr. Sean Tembo was arrested in 2019. Mr. Xavier Chimba was arrested in 2017. Mr. Hagainde Hijilema was arrested in 2017. Among several other people. But I'm also saying that there are 4 different people that were killed. Extrajudicial killings.
Mr. Jonas,
for expressing themselves.
Mr. Jonah, you have to also analyze. It's not just an arrest. You have to analyze the cases or offenses that they were alleged to have committed for them to be arrested. You understand what I'm saying? I am here seated, having been taken to court for the so-called defamation of the president case, even when the case was repealed. You understand what I'm saying? There's a difference there. How can it be that by exposing government who had imported maize and food, which is a danger to human life, become an offense for me? How can it be that Munia Zulu, who was responding to a youth chairman who was saying that bring Edgar Lungu here, we're going to castrate him, we're going to circumcise him and all those things because you people in Osaka are playing. He answers to those insults and all those things. After responding together with Mabonga, they are arrested in Osaka, but those perpetrators or those people who actually committed the offense itself are left scot-free. And then you come and tell me that no human rights or whatever. We have why me, Mr.
Francis
Kapwepwe, who is based in Chirabombwe, transported to Livingstone because some UPND cadre complained in Livingstone that they are not happy with what he was saying when he was in Chirabombwe, and he has been in prison for the past 5 months. And you come and tell me that's not an abuse of human rights?
He's been in prison for the past 5 months because you have not signed surety for him or as the people that are supporting him.
of course, you know, when you try and trivialize this thing, I get concerned.
No.
You know,
but it's
first
not
of all,
trivialized
before
because he has one surety that is pending for him to be released. He's got one surety, one Mao Sampa signed, and the other
but
nobody
they
has
have
pitched
given
up.
that young man not only surety, a demand for 2 sureties, but a demand for money about 30,000 kwacha. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm sure for you, as far as you're concerned, your argument will be that Mr. Nakachinda can afford to go and pay, because that's the perception you want to create out there, which in fact is not a correct situation to undertake.
You spoke of criminal defamation law and somebody who's had to face the law on that. But this was repealed, like you've rightly mentioned. Don't you think that's a sign of political will to allow freedoms, that a sitting president can abolish such a law despite the number of statements that people make against it?
Actually, what I was expecting from you colleagues is a handshake, Mr. John, and a handshake from Mr. Chimweka, a handshake from Mr. Cheswa. That Mr. Nakachinda, truly you have demonstrated that you are, an agent of change. It was as a result of my determination with other colleagues, challenging that law and actually exposing the president for what he was doing against a sacred institution called the judiciary.
And he listened to
And then I was arrested, put in jail. And it was as a result of that sacrifice that the Zambian people began to express that this is nonsensical.
So there's political will in it.
I don't know why you seem to have this appetite to try and justify, but I'm telling you that as a result of that effort, though it has been at the cost of me going to jail, maybe you're not even concerned of the fact that a political leader like myself have gone to jail for people because of the fact that we needed to have a change in that regard. I may be carrying on my head a conviction, but it has earned you the benefit of the fact that that law, which is a cake, is not there. You understand what I'm saying?
But the question is, the fact that it was abolished, doesn't that show political will to give people freedom to express themselves?
The only challenge we're having is that even when it was abolished, convictions are still being meted out. Even when it was abolished,
because that came before it was abolished.
Listen, there's another law that is being used to still gag, citizens, and this is now the cyber and whatever law they are using, seditious practice and so on. And in almost every court at the Majesty's complex there, based on my political commentary, made in good faith, speaking on behalf of
you speak of a law that was enacted while the Patriotic Front was
the UPND promised that law, when they come, they will repeal it immediately.
It was in 2020 when a 15-year-old boy was arrested by the police for a post he made, and it was regarded as an insult against President Edgar Lungu. It was in 2020 when a 15-year-old boy was arrested, and he had 3 criminal libel charges on his head because he is said to have insulted the president. What has changed? What's so different?
What is so different at this particular point is that the Zambian people spoke loudly in 2021, and they spoke loudly in favor of the fact that all this must come to a stop. For them to continue, and you trying to put me in a position of trying to justify that it should continue because it happened under PF, I'm wondering. Because you colleagues are too young. While as you're a journalist, you also are aspiring to have a better future together with me, even when I'm a politician. So if the Zambian people said no to that in 2021, why do you want to just...
So has your perspective of the cyber crimes law changed because the PF is no longer in power?
Yeah, because the Zambian people said no in 2021.
Well, let's talk about the Zambian people then. They're also represented by different institutions. One such institution is the Human Rights Commission. On Monday last week, we had the Human Rights Commission on this show. And the Human Rights Commission spokesperson sitting in the chair you're sitting explicitly said that the situation was terrible under the Patriotic Front and that it had significantly improved in the last 2 years. They cited several examples, including people being killed while protesting or assembling. They spoke about political party cadres with no legal mandate, abusing citizens, and according to the Human Rights Commission, which is an A-rated institution according to the UNHCR, the Zambian Human Rights Commission said things have improved.
Actually, I expected you to find something wrong with that, because the Human Rights Commission cannot start making political statements and making comparisons. The human rights is supposed to be dealing case by case. The moment you have a spokesperson of the human rights begin to say, we're better off that time, and we are not, good at it, we're better off now and not that time, they have now ushered themselves into the political arena.
Shouldn't they make an assessment?
No. You see, human rights abuses, if your rights are abused, the responsibility of the Human Rights Commission is to defend your rights. You understand what I'm saying? It cannot be that the abuse of your human rights today can be better to yesterday. You understand? An abuse of human rights is an abuse of human rights. And the moment you start getting to an arena of suggesting that it was better then and whatever, I would condone if it is you trying to give that analysis. But if the human rights are beginning to go in that area, for example, it first of all impairs their judgment and how they approach these things. They begin to then think that the abuse of human rights under UPND is better. So their aggression, their vigilance, and how they would be able to tackle that is already impaired by that particular assertion. So that guy, first of all, was offside. He was being political. And as it were, because of the fact that the UPND have demonstrated a high level of brutality and intolerance to professionalism. Look at how the judicial and judges have been treated. Look at how ECZ has turned out the Electoral Commission of Zambia like a branch of UPND. Look at the statements that are coming from the IG of the police, actually telling us that the opposition will not be allowed to have rallies because they're a danger, a security risk, and so on. All these nonsensical statements you seem to be tolerating on the basis that no, under PF such things used to be.
In your own way, when you say that you've apologized and that you are sorry to the Zambian people, do you, in your own right, think that Zambians have forgiven you, in a sense?
I don't think there's any reason why they would not forgive a person who genuinely has been remorseful over the issues they realized were not right. And we went to the Zambian people genuinely saw. That's how come President Lungu has become one of the most popular political figures in the Republic of Zambia, because he has demonstrated not only humanity, but a humility to be able to accept where a mistake could have been made. The UPND don't do that. The UPND are right through and through. Even when you challenge the UPND about the cost of living, they will tell you they're doing fantastically well. They are telling us today that
shouldn't that be the position of every government? Even when you were in government, everything was okay. There was no time when you apologized. You only apologized after you lost an election. And that's that's precisely how it must be and how it's been.
So
you
as far as
after the election, after you lost the election, is when you came to the Zambian people and apologized.
Okay.
So when you were in government, everything was okay. So you were even comparing on a platform. You were even comparing prices in South Africa, in Botswana, that they were better at that time. That they were better than the current time.
I would have excused you if there was a ShopRite that is a preserve of journalists who make efforts like yours. But the mere fact that you are buying the same mini meal that I buy, which is expensive, your efforts really to try and sanitize these people will not work. The cost of living is biting for everybody.
As we wind up, Mr. Nakachinda, I want to ask, there's a couple of by-elections that are coming up.
Yeah.
By-elections that I believe you as a political party would like to participate in, and as an alliance as well, putting yourselves forward. Majority of these by-elections, like the one Chimweka talked about in Pambashe, were previously held by the Patriotic Front. What strategy are you putting in place now to retain those seats, or have you given up?
No, but we are participating. How would you want to say we have given up? What is the basis for that? Because we have a candidate in Pambashe, we have a candidate in Petaoke, and we are on the ground campaigning.
And what ticket are they on?
Well, I mean, they are under Tonse, and Tonse has different members to the alliance. And in this case, we've chosen the new Congress Party in Petahoka, and there's FDD.
It's a fact that the Patriotic Front is the biggest political party in that alliance.
Yes.
But obviously, owing to the court issues and so on that the party is faced with, you cannot field a candidate under the party ticket. Do you think this would be a disadvantage to yourselves as Tonse, because perhaps the political party you use would not be as popular as the PF?
Well, I think that's how come we are hopeful that the rapporteur, from the UN Human Rights Commission, they attended in Zambia, looking at the sentiments that they issued, when they met. Aimbe was trying to, as usual, advance a narrative that doesn't speak to the realities on the ground. Say that she can speak, she needs to interact with different stakeholders. And would want to encourage her that in speaking to different stakeholders, it's not just boardroom discussions. She should be able to travel to Livingston, visit Mr. Waimi. She should go to Kaambwa. She should come to court when sessions are going on for political leaders that are facing seditious practices, espionage, and all these cases, that have been littered before the court that involve political players. She needs to sit with faith-based organizations, the Catholic Church, what's happening to Archbishop Alec Banda, and the details around that. There are many things that are happening that people would want to cover, but they speak to human rights abuses. We had for the first time in the history of this country, at the memorial of Mr. Sata's, Sata's memorial, having an archbishop being blocked at his own church from entering his own, premises. There are a lot of things that have happened. But as it were, a program like this and the time that we have, we may not be able to exhaust it. Especially,
you didn't even answer my question, because you didn't respond to my question. It was very simple. Do you think the political party that your candidates will stand with under Tonse would disadvantage the chances of you winning the by-elections, upcoming by-elections?
But I think we have a clear example. Apart from the violence and the rigging in Kaambwa, Tonse's performance for the first time after the alliance was formed, I'm sure everybody can, testify that we won that election, save for the things that happened during that by-election. We are determined to prevent those things. That's how come I'm saying to the Zambian people, the citizens of Petahoka, the citizens in Pambashe, that this time around, when the UPND come to, induce violence, we're going to defend ourselves.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Mr. Raphael Nakachinda, and speaking with us on this edition of Diamond Live.
Thank you, Mr. Jonah. Thank you, Mr. Chimweka, Mr. Cheswa. But I just wanted to advise you that you are also citizens of the Republic of Zambia. UPND should not extend into Diamond TV. You should make sure that you represent the experiences of the Zambian people. That will make this country move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Diamond Live. We will be back on Friday at the same time and to talk about some of the biggest news stories in the country